keep striving for this religion that we preach. Keep pushing for nothing's ever out of reach. Because the time we keep on driving, it's all that much we go. The time we keep on fighting, and these colors I wear will be sold through the skins of my soul.
And welcome to another edition of the Luton Town International Podcast, which is on the light side of numbers due to Alex having some excuse about his work, wanting to actually work rather than do a podcast. He's the one who moved to America. So I'm joined by Gav. How are you, Gav?
He moved to Australia. I moved to America. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you're both overseas anyway. So.
I'm doing good, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. So, we actually did get a win last night, but we'll get on with it fairly quickly anyway. So, a couple of things. We've got Chelsea game, obviously. Now, Chelsea, I think they put the stats up. Chelsea scored since 1992, 3 billion. Luton scored 30 million, and most of that was probably this summer. So, there's always going to be a slight mismatch, but I thought, despite the scoreline, we actually quizzed ourselves quite well.
It wasn't horrible. The goal from class was definitely there, especially first half. There was a period in the second half which I thought we did really, really well when the score was 1-0. And if we had got a goal at that point, I think it would have changed the game completely. But obviously we didn't, and Chelsea went on to win quite comfortably in the end. The goal from class is obvious. I mean, you're looking at a player like Raheem Sterling, who is an England international, and he just walked past Giles. You know, absolutely walk past him. And it's a nice finish, but I mean, he just absolutely walked past him. That's the problem we're going to have a lot this season, is we're going to come up against those sort of players, especially when you're playing the so-called top six. You're going to come up against those sort of players, and you just have to you have to be able to manage it. And we didn't on Friday night, and we lost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just Giles. He walked past the entire half the team on his way through. It's I mean, obviously he does have a reputation for going down easily, and if he did, you think VAR would have probably given it, just because it's Chelsea versus Luton and everything else. But I think people may be slightly afraid to put a tackle on. But yeah, second half, I said I think we had that 20 minutes where we actually were putting them under a bit of pressure. Obviously, if we could have actually crossed the ball, that would have been better. But there were chances there. I mean, there was a good analysis on Twitter. I'm not sure if you saw it. Someone saying actually tactically we probably got it slightly better than Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea had the individual players, but we kind of we were slightly better than the pressing. The goal came when basically it's one of our players was caught out of position on the press. I think it could have been it was either Giles or Kabore, I can't remember, which meant they could get the overload in. But it did say also Chelsea were probably expecting us to sort of play long from goal kicks, and we suddenly started passing out, which actually completely upset their tactical plan. Which I didn't see it watching the game, but after that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there was definitely periods in the second half where Kaminsky was playing the ball short to Bell or Locks, and we were playing out from there. And I think it caught Chelsea off guard because, as you said, Chelsea didn't expect us to play like that. I do agree with one thing that they said is that we seem to tactically we seem to be a little bit better than Chelsea. I wouldn't say necessarily better, but it definitely looked like Chelsea are still coming to grips with the fact that they have such a young side and such a relatively new side. Where you look at the Luton side, and yes, we brought in a lot of players, but the spine of the team has been there for a little bit. So I think, that definitely helped us. Here's the thing: you play Brighton first game of the season, and you lose 4-1, and realistically, it's 2-1, and then we give away two silly goals at the end. You play Chelsea, and it's 1-0, and you give away two silly goals at the end. It's small margins. But it's the small margins that you have to fix in the Premier League if we're going to stay up.
Which I think there were signs we're learning though, so it could happen. I mean, if you have a look, there's conceded 4 goals, conceded 3, conceded 2 last night. So on that basis, Friday night we concede 1. Now as long as we can score, we'll be fine.
And that'll be the draw. I said at the beginning of the season when I looked at the first 5 games, I said if we can get 5 points in the first 5 games, that's a win. That's a huge win for us. So we've obviously got 0 from the first 2. Yeah, we've got West Ham, Fulham, and Wolves. And I'll be totally honest with you, I haven't watched all 3 teams this season. I very much think we can beat Wolves, and I very much think we can beat Fulham, and I very much think we can get something from West Ham. So we may be above the 5 points come the end of it, from the end of these 3 games. But I think realistically, you're looking at probably 2 to 3 points from them 3 games. But if we can come away with 5, then that's 5 points in your first 5 games. I think most Luton Town fans would have taken that at the beginning of the season.
Well, yeah, I mean,
in regards to the Chelsea game, Jaws had a very, very poor game. Barkley to me was absolutely fantastic when on the ball. When he got on the ball and was able to pass it and able to use the ability that he has, he was fantastic. However, I feel he was at fault for the second and third goal because he completely lost his man and just did not track back. He just did not have the gas left in the tank. And I think that's one thing, if you're talking tactically, I think this one thing that Edwards got wrong is that he took Barkley off too late. It was obvious about 10 minutes before he came off that he was gassed.
that's the problem. I mean, I think the way we basically want our teams to play and everything else, it will take it out of them. And I think last season we get away to a certain extent. Championships are good quality. Premier League, you get punished against Chelsea.
Yeah, and I mean that's going to be the way it's going to be against the big six or whatever you want to call them these days. That's the way it's going to be. You're going to get punished. You're going to be made to pay. You just got to make sure that one, it doesn't knock the confidence, and two, that as Rob Edwards said, it's a learning curve. It's a learning experience. We're not going to do that again because, I mean, one thing that I noticed, and you talk about learning, one thing I noticed is for the Chelsea, I want to say it was the third goal. I think it was the goal that Jackson scored. He got in front of Reece Burke to poke the ball home past Kaminsky. On Tuesday night, Gillingham, exact same thing. Claire got in front of Burke to head home past Krul. Now, Krul got a hand to it, but it still went in. Now, we're talking about learning from mistakes. Reece Burke needs to learn really, really quickly. He can't let the man get across him. He needs to be on the other side of the striker or of the attacker coming in. I think just lose his man in that position.
I think basically what we need to be doing is actually stopping those crosses coming in if we can. If you look at sort of, Brighton, can't remember how many of the goals came from crosses. Chelsea, they came from wide areas, all actually down the sort of our left flank, as it turns out. So I think that's something that has to be looked at. So I can see obviously Giles is in there for his crossing ability and his attacking, but I think he needs to learn the defensive part. Bell hasn't had the best start of the season. He's been caught a couple of times, he's been caught short. But it is obviously, we've got to bear in mind, it is sort of, played Brighton, played Chelsea. I mean, they're both multi-million pound squads or billion pound squads. So sometimes they are going to have that quality, but it's just, you've got two things. You've got to stop the cross. And if you can't stop the cross, you've got to be tight to your man, so in the 6-yard box.
Yeah, and perfect analysis. You said Jaws wasn't great defensively. I think Alex kind of has been making that point since the beginning of the season. He's good going forward, but he's not great defensively. And I think he's been found out in the first couple of Premier League games that he isn't great defensively. And I just wonder with that if maybe Edwards changes and pushes back to a forward in defence and pushes Jaws a little bit further up the pitch, maybe as a left midfield, left winger. Because at that point, then you're given the left back, who I would personally put Amari Bell there. You're giving him the coverage from Jaws in front of him, but you're also giving Jaws a lot more freedom to be able to go forward and put in crosses. Now the crosses against Chelsea weren't great, but as Edwards talked about when he signed, that's kind of like his thing. So we can get him a little bit further forward, get the crosses in, and not have him worry too much about the defensive end. I think in regards to Amari Bell as well, I think last year, when we went to that back three, he was putting that left centre back role because I think we had injuries at the time. And
he's putting that centre back. No, he's putting that role because
Dowdy was playing so well.
Yeah, Naismith went.
Yeah, so he got put in that role, and it just kind of worked for him. I think the step up is showing that maybe that's not his best role. And the other thing that I will say about Amari Bell is he hasn't had a break. He played for us in the playoff final, then went to play in the Gold Cup for Jamaica. Jamaica advanced pretty far. I think it was the semi-finals they got to, and then he's come back and he's gone straight back into preseason with Luton. So there's been no break there for him. There's been no rest on his body. So I think that could and probably is playing a part, and I think that's where we're stuck a little bit at the moment, is because we don't have that reinforcement defensively. We're very, very thin.
But I mean, on the flip side, there you're saying, okay, so he hasn't stepped up. We've had 2 games, the entire squad, apart from sort of Barkley and sort of, Nakamba to a certain extent, it's a completely new level for them. So they're showing signs. It's kind of promising on those ones, and they will learn. I think they'll learn from the mistake as the season goes on. You can't necessarily expect us to hit the side running. I mean, you look at the other promoted teams; they're all on 0 points as well.
Yeah, and I mean that was one of the things. Obviously, the game wasn't televised last night, and I know me and yourself were watching Sky Sports News, and Danny Mills talking about 8 changes. It's ridiculous because they need to get some confidence and they need to put their first team out there and they need to win. And then they talked about Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace made 7 changes. And well, what's the difference between Crystal Palace and Luton? Oh well, Crystal Palace already have a win against who? Sheffield United. We beat them last year too. I'm pretty sure we can beat them again this year. That's not a fucking win. We played Brighton and Chelsea. Danny Mills is an absolute cunt.
Okay, yep, I go along with that. Hang on, you're the first one to swear on this. That's not been my job.
I know, right? And here's the thing: like when me and you were agreeing, it's right.
It's worrying.
Yeah, just like I was sitting there watching it last night. I'm just kind of like, he wanted Gillingham to win so fucking bad. It was so obvious, so bad he wanted them to win.
I think maybe he predicted that, and therefore he didn't like to be proved wrong. So he's kind of thinking, right, it's going to colour his entire sort of judgment on it. I mean, to be fair, he was an okay footballer. He's a shit pundit.
Most of them are. I don't even think he was an okay footballer, to tell you the truth. But that's just me. But yeah, it just bothered me last night that like you look at the games tonight. Chelsea barely scraped through against Wimbledon. Everton barely scraped through against Doncaster. And yes, they've made changes, but so do we. And like, here's the thing: these teams that you're coming up against in the lower leagues, it's a free shot. It doesn't matter if they get blown out. It doesn't matter. They're going out there and they're going to give absolutely everything. And when you make so many changes, like we did with 8 changes, you're having players playing long minutes for the first time probably this season. Krul playing the first game in a Luton jersey. Woodrow came off the bench against Brighton. They haven't played a lot of minutes. And Edwards, I think, got a spot on last night. I think he was in a no-win situation because if we go out there and blow away Gillingham, it's a case of, oh, well, they should. But if we go out there and Gillingham beat us, or it's tight like it is, and it's all about Gillingham, I don't think Edwards could win either way. But the most important thing is we won. And to me, he did the right thing because he got playing minutes into these players. And as he said after the game, 1 or 2 of them have now given him a decision to make come Friday. That's what he wants. That's what he needs.
Well, I think a noticeable thing, I looked at lineup, I thought, that's a strong lineup. 8 changes. That is a strong lineup. And that's the depth of squad we've got at the moment.
I mean, you looked at that team last night that went out there, and if that team had started for us last season, none of us would have been complaining in the championship.
No. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think there were 2 aspects last night. One was obviously we thought it made hard work, and there's some slightly worrying defensive sides. On the other hand, we seem to be having a goal of the season competition as well.
Nah, that's over. Alfie Doughty's won it. That was a cracker.
Well, I think it was last year. The goal of the season came from that sort of the first round of obviously I know it's the second round, but first game we played in the cup. I think last year's goal of the season was what's his name? Soul bloke.
I know. Alfie Doughty seemed to think it was him because he said in his little interview, it's a pity I've had to wrap up goal of the season 2 seasons in a row now. So I'm sure he thinks it was him.
That's it. Yeah. No, sorry. I was thinking Carlos Mendes Gomez. He was basically in the sort of running for it from his goal against Newport. So,
I'll be honest with you, Nick. I can't remember that. We lost to Newport, so I probably blacked it out.
No, fair enough. I wasn't playing at the time. I only saw when it landed. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you've got sort of. I mean, going through the goals, you had sort of Brown's first goal, sort of 96 seconds into his home debut. Probably his first touch as well. Not a bad first touch, and it's a very, very decent finish. And I think he was actually apparently getting around quite well. And it's sort of neither of us could actually see it. So, but this is just going on the commentary. Alfie Doughty, I think people are saying after they looked at him, thought, no, that's too far out. What's he doing there? And then, fair play. And then Corley Woodrow actually shows if he gets a moment, he's not afraid to hit it, and that's what I like about him. He's not afraid to try a hit from anywhere.
The thing I liked about Woodrow's goal, and I don't think it's up there with Doughty's, I just want to say that right now, but the thing I liked about Woodrow's goal was that ball got played down the right, and you can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to play in behind the defense, to get onto it and then push it across the box. But the defender gets it and heads it back out. And you look at Woodrow, as the ball's coming in, he can kind of see the defender's going to get there to it first, and he just kind of stops and takes a step back. And then as the ball comes to him, he's perfectly set to just rocket it into the back of the net. And to me, that's the kind of striker Woodrow is. He's a smart striker.
He can pick up those pockets of space. He's kind of like almost akin to a Teddy Sheringham type role. Not the quickest, but it's got the intention to pick up the space.
Yep.
Not necessarily going to be a starter like Sheringham, but it was. But we've got some good options up front. He's a good option over the bench, and also he can get. I think Nathan Jones said last season, he can get you that surprising goal out of pretty much nothing.
I think he did it against Norwich, didn't he? When we were down to 10 men last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, here's the thing: like, come Friday night, if Rob Edwards sticks with the 3-5-2 and plays Woodrow and Morris up forward, or Woodrow and Elijah up forward, I got no problems with it. And I think that's the thing right now with our squad, is that no matter who's playing, I think you're just going to that's I've got no problem with that. The only one I've had a problem with so far, who I don't think should have stayed in the team. Okay, I was surprised that Pelly got dropped against Chelsea and not Chong, because I think, despite the mistake he made in the Brighton game, I feel Pelly was better in that game overall than Chong was. But saying that, Chong played very, very well against Chelsea. I would like to see him not pull out 50-50 tackles and 50-50 balls as much as he is, but I understand as well now that that's not his game.
I think basically we've got a transition from last season to then what we need this season. So last season, I think you could pack the midfield with a load of winning runners, good winning runners, but it was sort of, who'd be sort of, hard work. And I think this season, maybe you do need that sort of extra touch of class to sort of, people who can actually pick out the passes. So maybe that's why Chong's in, maybe there's Barkley in. So it's just trying to get the sort of, the right measurement going through.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you are going to need that extra bit of class, and I think that's one of the reasons why Barkley came in as well. I don't necessarily think you can play Barkley and Chong in the same midfield, especially if we're playing a 3-5-2.
It does leave Nakamba with a lot of work to do if you do that, unless the others are coming through.
Nakamba was, on Friday night, I felt sorry for him. He must have been absolutely knackered after that game. Because the 2 goals that Chelsea scored, I said I thought Barkley was at fault for, because I felt like he lost his man. Both of them, Nakamba was the midfielder that ended up pushing on and trying to win a tackle or win the ball back. He's been, I know, Brighton, I didn't think he was fantastic, but Chelsea, I thought against Chelsea he was absolutely amazing. He was, I think, probably our best player in the pitch.
Well, I think we saw last season the effect when he came in. He was therefore the must-have signing, I think. And yeah, it's back up. It's up to a level, and he'll get caught out slightly. But I mean, he's used to level. But I mean, you do need all 11 players to be on it pretty much every single game in this league, I think.
Yeah, and I think Locke's getting called up to the Wales squad. Hopefully, it's not just a call up to be left sitting on the bench. We can get some game time. That's going to do him the world of good too, getting called back up into the international team, into the Wales international team. That'll do him the world of good. But I'm looking at West Ham on Friday. I think there will be changes. I seen something on Twitter saying,
obviously, but
changes from the Gillingham game, but I mean changes from the Chelsea game. I looked at something on Twitter and they said, like, Jacob Brown should start. Who are you dropping? Elijah played better against Chelsea. Carlton played better against Brighton. So you just leave the 2 of them up front. I don't necessarily know if you do. I mean, I would, as much as it hurts to say it, I'd probably drop Carlton.
I would go if you're going to start Jacob Brown, I'd actually go the other way. I mean, Elijah can give you the sort of, the steppos and everything else, and he's kind of, is a presence. But I think Carlton is the old-fashioned centre forward. And I think somebody said West Ham, they actually do let you create chances. And I think if you're creating chances, Carlton's probably the best place to take them there. Now, West Ham, obviously, they're top of the table, but it's quite interesting. They've actually basically won 2 games, one with 21% possession, one with 23% possession, and they're up against us, who's had basically at most about 30% possession. So something's going to keep there.
Yeah, someone's going to have more possession. I'm just hoping it doesn't fall to James Ward-Prowse on the right-hand side so we can whip in balls, and Jaws is an absolute nightmare again.
Well, I think it's basically West Ham kind of, try it on the counter-attack, and they'll probably think as the away team, they'll be able to counter-attack because they'll be coming at us and we'll be getting possession. But no, we would probably look to get the ball quickly again. Plus the fact, I think the other thing we've got to have a look at is we're going to have a full-sided Kenilworth Road. And you saw a couple of games, especially last season, the Watford game and this sort of the Sunderland game. The crowd, when they're on it, and they will be absolutely on it on a Friday night,
Yep.
that can be a big weapon onto it as well.
Yeah. I just want to say, you said West Ham were top of the league. Are we just knock out Man City this year at all? So second is basically winning the league now. I'm fine with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But,
they were top. They were top on Saturday night.
Until Man City played on Sunday.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. It's I didn't forget about that. I was keeping an eye on that because I was thinking Sheffield United equalised. I was in two minds. On one, I was thinking, right, I'd love to see Sheffield United actually do well. Then I thought, no, actually don't. They're relegation rifles. So I'd like to back the underdog normally, but in this year, no, not so much.
No, this is any other season I'd be sitting there probably cheering for Sheffield United to get a second, or even just to hold on for a draw. But in this season, no. We need those teams to drop as many points as possible. I was even pissed a little bit, and I don't like Arsenal at all, but I was pissed that Fulham got an equaliser with 10 men on Saturday, because I feel that they'll be thereabouts with us come the end of the season. Maybe not completely in a dogfight, but I think they'll be in the bottom half. And I think they won't be exactly, running away from the relegation zone like they were last year.
Well, I think that there's about 8 teams in a kind of mini league, and some won't realise it. Fulham won't realise it. Forest fans don't seem to think they will be, which is odd because they were most of last season. But obviously, you got the 3 of us that came up. Everton, they're right down there as well. I'd say you've got Fulham, you've got Forest, and you've got Wolves.
Yeah, I think Everton are in a lot of trouble as well, and I think with Everton, it's a case of they're playing it season by season instead of looking long term. Like last season, they brought in Dyche, and apparently the two finalists for the job were Dyche and Bielsa. Now, I know who I'm picking in that situation, but I'm also realizing that you bring in Bielsa, chances are you go down, chances are you don't come straight back up, and it'll take a year or two for him to build the squad, the side, and the systems that he wants them to play and how he wants them to play. With Everton, I don't think they can necessarily afford to do that because of the new ground and whatnot. I don't think they're in that position where they can, and they're playing it basically year by year. Okay, we need to stay in the Premier League this year. Okay, we need to stay in the Premier League this year. I think that's going to catch up to them.
I think that's going to catch up. They're being closer and closer. I mean, they've been sort of around time for years. But I mean, the thing is, there's the difference. If we go down, we've actually planned it well enough that it's sort of, we'd actually been in a better position than when we went up. Everton go down, they're screwed. They'd end up doing a Sunderland or be more.
Yeah, and I think that's where the problem lies. Is that they're playing it year by year. There's no long-term strategy at that club, and I feel that if they go down, like if they'd gone down, if they'd picked Bielsa as a manager last season, gone down this season, they'd probably be top 10, I would say, in the Championship. But then next season they'd be pushing back to the Premier League, I think. Where now you look at it and you kind of go, if everything go down this season, are they coming straight back up? I don't think so. Are they coming back up after 2 years? I don't think so. Like you just said, like there's a realistic chance that they could do a Sunderland and go way down the leagues. But I will say one thing is that this striker they brought in from Portugal, Beto, he played a little bit tonight. I was watching bits and pieces of the game. He looks like a handful. He's 6'4". He's fucking built like a brick shithouse. And that's exactly what fucking Dyche is looking for. That is Dyche ball down to a T.
It'd be after our strikers.
I don't know why. I honestly can't see why someone hasn't gone in for Elijah or Carlton already. Like I thought we would. I think going to the Premier League made it easier for us, and the club are never going to release stuff like that. That's just not the way they work. But it's definitely surprised me that someone hasn't come in with a big offer, because I think I've said it before. I think Carlton and Elijah could easily play for a mid-table Premier League team. Crystal Palace, Fulham, those sort of teams. I think they could eat Brentford. I think they could easily play. Brentford's the one that really surprised me, because Ivan Toney gone till January, and I know it's only until January, but there's a lot of talks of him leaving after that. like why they haven't gone in for a Carlton Morris type player who I think would fit the way they play perfectly. I'm not complaining about it. I want Carlton here long term, as long as he wants to stay here. I'm good with that. But
well, the fact they're all Premier League strikers now as well. I mean, that is they will be demanding some big fees on that one. I mean, especially if you look at Sheffield United, Cameron Archer, good season in the Championship, not really done anything in the Premier League, 18 million. I'm glad we're not paying that type of money for players.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're in after this United kid, Ted and Mengai.
Oh, don't pretend you don't know. We know basically when we play Man United, you're going to be talking to yourself as the Man United fan.
I want the half and half scarf when you go, okay?
Not a fucking chance in hell. I'm putting it out there right now. I think anybody who buys a half and half shirt, scarf, should be allowed to, as long as it basically as long as they can test it by tying it around their neck to the floodlight pirates.
But yeah, we're apparently in after that guy. No rumored fee or anything like that. But as I said to you earlier on in the group chat, you're talking about a defender who can't get into a United team which is ravaged with injuries right now and is behind Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. I'm not convinced. Let's just put it that way. I'm not convinced. But hey, like, I trust our scouting team. Although I do wish they would move outside of England at times. Like, go find them gems. I know we found Sluga a couple of years back, but find them gems that will do well for you outside of England. I know it's a little bit more difficult now with the Brexit situation, but I mean, we've got to start building that network, I think, and I think this year in the Premier League, I think after this year, I think we'll start looking at that.
I think I think at the moment you probably want minds who know the English system first. I mean, at Sluga, if you think he had a sort of a good second season. His first season though was there was a lot of mistakes with trying to get used to the game, and we can't afford someone coming and getting used to the game.
No, and yeah, again, what the club is doing makes total sense, and I agree 100% with what you're saying. It makes total sense, but long term, we got to start thinking long term now, going into Power Court. Realistically, when we get to Power Court, we'll be a Premier League team. Whether we go down this season or not, I think realistically, when we get to Power Court, we'll be a Premier League team again. We need to start looking at the gems we can find in the likes of Scandinavia and the likes of the European smaller leagues, the Belgian league, stuff like that, the Dutch league. Players that we can pick up and not break the bank for. Keep within our budget. We're not going to overpay for anyone. That's not who we are. But I'm sure again we can find.
We don't need an overseas scouting network. We have Barnsley. Barnsley.
So Barnsley do our scouting.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I'm not convinced by that.
Right. I mean, obviously we've got sort of these two games on Friday we've covered sort of briefly. Cup draws just been made before we've done that. Extra away. Not exactly thrilling, is it?
No, but it'll do. Again, it'll be like Tuesday, where it'll give Edwards a chance to play players who aren't probably getting minutes in the Premier League. Because these next couple of games in the Premier League are extremely important for us. West Ham, Fulham, and Wolves. Like West Ham, okay, they're second in the league, and you kind of look at it and go, what they achieved last year in Europe, not necessarily the Premier League. You look at it and go, okay, yeah, they should win. But Fulham and Wolves, I think maybe it's just me. And the last time Fulham played us, I think it was or one of the last times they played us, they absolutely destroyed us. I just don't think there's anything to be scared of there with Fulham and Wolves. West Ham, maybe. I really rate James Ward-Prowse. I think he's a great footballer.
You mentioned that you've got a cardboard cutout of him. Fulham last time they played us, we were absolutely decimated by injuries. We were thinking I had about 11 or 12 players out.
The cardboard cutout of James Ward-Prowse is right behind the one of the United player Axel Tunzabi, and just in front of Alex Lacey. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm building a collection. I want a first 11.
Okay. David Villana, does he fit in there as well?
Who?
David Villana.
Yeah. I don't have a cardboard cutout of him. His is like a shrine on the wall.
That I could well imagine.
Never let that one down. He's a good player. Just didn't. I mean, here's the thing. John Still's seen something in him, so I'm not doubting Mr. John Still, Sir John Still at all.
In the conference,
he's seen something in him that he thought, okay, he could do a job for us, and This is also the guy who saw something in Pelly Ruddock and Panzu and brought him in all them years ago. So all hail Sir John Still.
Are you seriously comparing Penny Ruddock and Pandu to Dave Viana?
I'm just saying John Still seen something about him that he liked. One worked, one didn't. Happens, even to the best of us, even to Sir Still, it happens.
Yeah, but he also did see things in sort of Solomon Tayu.
That's true. He got more wrong than he did right, didn't he?
Well, you get a few right there, a few wrong there. It's just we have so many players in the conference. I'm thinking, yeah, you're gonna have half.
You're bound to get a race sooner or later.
Get a few there, but yeah. So we'll see what comes in there. So for these finds, but the and everything else. Predictions Friday. I'm not going to bother making them.
1-1.
I think we can get something. Possibly win.
Yeah, 1-1. I think Carlton gets off the mark from actual play, not from the penalty spot.
Nothing's there. And actually, I do wish we were playing Everton instead of West Ham on Friday, because I think they would be ripe at that point, especially at home.
Yeah. But here's the thing, Nick. I keep telling you, we just need to stay in it until those last 10 games of the season. If we get to those last 10 games of the season and we're not all but doomed, we have a real chance of staying up.
And one other thing I'll talk about briefly, if you notice, basically, whenever the club posts something, there seems to be a load of African trolls saying, you'll lose, another loss, everything else. And you'd have a look at them. These things, profiles that popped up, and think, what are they actually getting out of it? Let's go on to a random football club's place. Post something there, people are going to go, what? Who are you? I mean, there's one I sent you just before as well. Some fan who's basically got an Arsenal fan in his photo goes, yeah, you'll never win that cup. And someone's pointed out, did you miss the point we did by beating your lot?
You got to understand, most people, and it's really sad, but most people don't believe that the footballing world started until 1992. So everything before that's it's a myth, unless you actually live through it like we did. Then people just don't realize it. They don't, like, when I tell people Luton have won the League Cup, it's kind of like, huh? It's just the reaction you get, and it is what it is. You deal with it. You know at the end of the day what your team have done compared to some other teams who have an empty trophy cabinet, and you get on with it.
Okay, and just before we just wrap up, completely non-Luton related now. Are you giving the next Watford managers to come in? You reckon it'll be in September or October?
He hasn't been sacked already?
No, but he has lost the same amount of games as Rob Edwards did when he got sacked.
There's only 30 days in August, so if they haven't sacked him yet, he's lasting until September. But it might be only till tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's whether he manages to get the full by September or something, only 2 weeks into it.
He won't get the full of September. Actually, he might. They have an international break, don't they?
They do, but that's also a good time to change managers.
That's also a good time. Yeah, that's true. So they have one game. It's like us. So they have one game until they change the manager. So, yeah, mid September. Who is their manager?
It's the ex-Barnsley bloke.
No idea. But yeah, no, he won't see the end of September, and whoever comes in to take over from him won't see Christmas.
No, I think basically they changed them in September, October, then they changed them in January, and then again in May.
I think they might change this year because they're getting so much backlash. I think they might change in December.
We'll see. Right. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there because it's people probably getting bored thinking what the hell are they talking about Watford for? Just to laugh, basically.
I would just like to say he brought it up.
I'd like to say I'd just like to laugh at them and take the piss out of them. Right. So we will speak next week.
Hopefully after a win.
Yeah. We'll do. Cheers, Gav.